Hi, today I'm going to talk about making an individual presentation. Specifically, I'm thinking about GCSE students making an individual presentation for English language. But I suppose you could apply this to any time that you need to make some kind of speech or presentation in front of others. So in Wales, we have 5 areas where your speech has to kind of come under a category. So they are Wales, the world of work, science and technology, citizenship, and leisure. So as long as your topic comes under one of those 5 banners, you're all right. Now, how do you narrow it down? Because that is pretty broad. Well, really, you're going to need to find some angle to take, something that's going to allow you to get the top marks. And that's going to be something which is going to be a bit more complicated. So you don't want to go for something really straightforward like tourism in South Wales or whatever. It's not going to allow you to get the best marks. So what I think is good is if you can think of a line of argument or a kind of key question to base your talk around. So for example, a question like, does tourism cause more harm in Wales than good? That comes under the category of Wales. You've got a bit of a contentious question to ask, to investigate, which is the research side of the presentation. And you've got a line of argument that you can kind of explore both sides of. It's going to make it more interesting for people to listen to. Similarly, in other things such as leisure, rather than just talking about my hobby is video games, you could take a question such as, do video games encourage violence? And that way you're talking about something you're passionate about, that you've got personal experience of, but you're also making it a bit more interesting than just, this is the games I like to play. Another question could be about leisure, taking it from a different angle. So you could use a question like, teenagers today are under too much stress and too much exam pressure, they don't have enough time to enjoy themselves. And that comes under leisure because it's the question of, do teenagers have enough leisure time? And you could also, you could use that as an opportunity to share your personal experiences and maybe some health and well-being tips for your audience if you were going to perform that in front of your class. A key thing is thinking about the success criteria. What is being graded on this presentation and how are you being assessed? In the English specification, you're being graded on 2 different sections. One is content and organisation, so that is, in other words, what you have prepared, the quality of the information that you've prepared. Is it engaging? Is it structured well to keep people's interest? But secondly, it's grammar and register and accuracy. So things like your vocabulary, whether you're speaking in grammatically correct sentences and whether your sentences are really varied. So there's 2 different sides to this mark scheme. On the one hand, you need to be really accurate when you speak, and it's really easy to turn into slang. It's really easy for your speech to deteriorate into an informal tone, especially if you're talking to people you know very well. And the key thing with this is it's got to be professional. It's a bit of a task that prepares you for when you get a job one day and your boss says, I want you to give a presentation to us on X, Y, and Z. And it just prepares you for that more formal environment. And the content-wise, it has to be good research behind it. So it isn't good enough to just kind of make it up as you go along, wing it, answers on the back of a postcard. It has to be well prepared and researched. So you have to go and trawl through the internet, find some stuff that's relevant, but you've also got to put it in your own words and condense it. Because if you stand up there and read out everything Wikipedia says on Welsh tourism, everyone's going to fall asleep. So you have to find a way of making it catchy, of getting your audience's attention, of keeping their attention, and presenting some complex issues and information in the most interesting way that you can. Obviously, using your tone, varying your tone and being confident is also going to be a big part of that. So what I would recommend, once you've identified a rough topic you want to look at, is identifying key questions that you want to ask in your talk and answer. Okay, so that can be a really helpful way to structure your talk. Key questions like, why do some people believe that tourism is not beneficial in Wales? And then you could go into some detail to answer that. On the other hand, you could also ask a question like, how might some people argue the opposite view, that actually tourism is really beneficial for Wales? And then you could develop that. Now, these key questions can help you, firstly, to structure your talk, but also to structure your research. Then you need to think about, what do you need to ask? what kind of questions do you need to ask, and what do you need to find out. Now, my top tip would be find the most controversial aspect of your topic and zoom in on that. Explore different viewpoints and evidence to support both sides. You want to get to the most interesting stuff straight away. Don't wait till the end for a really interesting point. Also, as part of that, you can look at keywords and vocabulary. You can start making lists of any subject-specific vocabulary that is going to really help make your speech stand out. So if you're looking at a subject like tourism, try to use some sector language like seasonal, profit, revenue, population, things like that. They're going to really help the quality of your speech. Now, when you're ready to start actually structuring your speech and putting it together, I would suggest you write a bare bones outline. So you've got point 1, point 2, point 3, and so on. And under those points, you've got bullet point ideas of things you're going to say, examples and evidence to support them, and then maybe an opinion as well. So for each point, you want to develop that point thoroughly to be able to speak on it for a few minutes. So you don't want your talk to be super short and sweet. Here's my point of why tourism is bad. Here's my point why tourism is good, the end. You have to try and develop it and make it a little bit more complex. So if point number 1 is something like tourism is damaging the environment in Wales, I'm now going to develop that point. I'm going to tell you what different sources have said in my research. I'm going to give you some evidence. I might give you some statistics. I might show you some photographs of maybe litter left in some beautiful Welsh beaches. And then I can give my opinion on this and why I think this is important for us to care about. Now, if I've done that 3 times in my bare bones outline, then from that point I might want to write my speech in a lot more detail in a document or on paper. Now, you can't use a script when you're presenting your individual presentation, but it can be a very helpful step to go through to make sure you know in detail what you want to say. Once you've got your speech written in detail, your teacher can have a look through it for you and just see if you're on the right lines. Then you can reduce that down into the bare bones notes that you're going to actually use on the day to deliver your presentation. Now, these notes will have to be submitted to the exam board. You can't write in full sentences. It's going to have to be keywords, and you're going to have to know your presentation really well to be able to deliver it effectively. So this is where practice is going to come in, that you need to be really familiar with the presentation. Part of the preparation here is not just the research and not just putting together a PowerPoint, for example, but actually practicing the delivery of the speech. Here's some do's and don'ts then. Don't start with the PowerPoint. I know it's what you all want to do is go on PowerPoint, create something whizzy with animations and transitions and cool photos or whatever. Don't start there though, because you have to figure out where you're going with the speech first. And the danger is you're going to end up copying and pasting a load of text from Wikipedia, putting it on a load of slides, and that's not really what this task is about. Don't put all the text you want to say on the slides. That's death by PowerPoint. Plus, you're not allowed to do that anyway. You can't read it out. So just be really selective what goes on those slides. If you use slides at all, you don't have to use PowerPoint. It's not compulsory. If you want to use it, fine. But make sure you use it well and make sure it's useful. Do your research thoroughly. Practice giving your speech. And try to engage the audience by asking them rhetorical questions and write down your key vocabulary, because you can guarantee on the day when you give your speech, your mind goes blank, you'll forget all those great words that you were going to use. So have them written down, then there's no excuses, you've got to use them. Okay, so I hope that's helpful in thinking about how to prepare your individual presentation. Good luck and have fun!